The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Okay. What do we think about it? Let's talk to Josh Hammer about this next. Joining me now, Josh Hammer, host of the book America on Trial, also wrote a book about this area, Israel and Civilization. Okay, Josh. At this point in time, with all the winning from the Trump administration, I am very hesitant to lob any criticisms or even really concerns out there. I've been so happy with this 2 weeks, but I have concerns, to put it mildly. The people of Gaza are not dying for new job opportunities. They're just dying for Allah.
Jesse, that's very well put, actually. Look, this was not on anyone's bingo card, I think would be a polite way of saying it. It was definitely not on my bingo card. I mean, he was standing there next to Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm reasonably certain that this was not on Benjamin Netanyahu's bingo card either. I mean, this is not a thing that's been discussed. I mean, there's been a lot of conversations since October 7th. There's been a lot of conversations going back much further than October 7th as to what will have to happen in Gaza in the long term, assuming correctly that Hamas cannot stay in power. But the idea that the United States would come in and basically build the Trump Hotel Khan Yunis or the Trump Resort in Rafah, this was not something that anyone was thinking about. So I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know exactly what to think of this until we hear more in the way of detail. What I know for sure, Jesse, is that the United States should definitely not go in there unless and until the actual Arabs there are out. So it seems to me like what Donald Trump is saying here when it comes to Gaza, this is all basically contingent on his related proposal / his mandate, it seems, to Egypt and Jordan that they take in the Arabs there in Gaza. So from that perspective, I think it actually could work out well. I think the broader point here, Jesse, is that Donald Trump is a disruptor. He is someone who takes old, outmoded shibboleths. He takes old orthodoxies that have become stale to the extent that they were ever viable in the first place, and he likes to shatter it. That's how we got the Abraham Accords peace deal back in 2020. For decades and decades, these two-state solution cartel, the foreign policy establishment from both sides of the aisle in Washington, D.C. said, the only way that Israel's ever going to get normal relations with any more Arab countries is to give the Palestinians a state. And Trump and Netanyahu tag team the first time around that basically said, screw that. We're actually going to go outside in. Forget the Palestinians for a second here. Let's strengthen Israel. Let's strengthen UAE, Bahrain, and so forth there. We'll get this anti-Iran alliance, and then maybe the Palestinians will come begging for scraps of the table. So it's that kind of creative outside-the-box thinking that I think is going on here. I would be lying if I said to you that I see exactly where this is going, because I don't. But I guess I will say this. I mean, Trump is right insofar as Gaza is 25 miles of beautiful Mediterranean Sea beachfront property. It does have enormous potential. When Israel withdrew there in 2005, they said that the Arabs had the potential to turn it into a Singapore on the Mediterranean. That was the popular phrase at the time. We see what they did with it. They turned it into an Islamist terrorist bastion, obviously. But who am I to doubt Donald Trump at this point there? I want to see where this is going. I'm not sure how serious it is, but I have decently high hopes, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we shall see. All right, we're moving on because there's so much I have to tackle with you. Iran famously wants to kill Donald Trump. They've wanted to kill him for quite some time. Trump dropped this little nugget to a reporter. Here he was.
It's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani.
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That'd be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left.
Josh, what does that mean?
Jesse, yet again, I kind of throw my hands up and I say I'm not entirely sure what the big guy has exactly in mind here. It seems to me like he's saying that if you succeed in taking me out, And we know for a fact that Iran has been trying for a long time to take out Donald Trump. They've been trying to take out a lot of people from his first administration as well in response to the assassination of Qasem Soleimani at the Baghdad, Iraq airport in 2020. So it seems like he's saying that if God forbid you are successful, I have put instructions in place to my successor, which I guess would be J.D. Vance, to go ahead and nuke your country to high hell. I mean, it seems to me like that is actually what he is saying there. Obviously, God willing, this never happens. God willing, the Iranian regime will not be successful in any of its assassination attempts extraterritorially, let alone against someone like Donald Trump there. So I hate that we're even having this conversation in the first place there, but it seems like Trump basically is not going to brook any nonsense when it comes to the Iranian regime. And certainly he and Netanyahu are on the same page there, that's for sure.
Josh, where is Iran right now, meaning the mullahs? Well, how is their hold on power? I know Joe Biden being in office kind of gave them a thread to hang on to. Trump being in office, not so much. So where does Iran go from here?
Well, they're in a tough spot. Look, I mean, Iran was obviously rooting for the Biden regime, the Biden-Harris regime, to win this election. They were clearly rooting for the Democratic Party. I mean, ever since Barack Obama came into power in 2008, the Democratic Party has been obsessed with realigning American Middle East interests towards Iran, towards Qatar, towards the Muslim Brotherhood, away from our traditional allies like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, and so forth there. And tragically, in many ways, they've actually been successful, but they've not been wholly successful. You know, I mentioned the Abraham Accords earlier. The Abraham Accords were a major anti-Iran alliance that came into being there. I think at this point, the Iranian regime is hurting. They've been having pretty bad inflation recently there. At this point, the best thing that the United States can do is to put back into place the crippling sanctions that were part of the maximum pressure campaign, they called it the first time around. Donald Trump just did that yesterday. He signed into law some of the harshest sanctions that any president has put on a foreign country in recent memory. So more of that, please. I think that is probably basically what we need to do. I certainly don't think any kind of bombs should start flying anytime soon or anything like that. But crippling sanctions, I think, would be a nice start. Make that regime heard, and God willing, the people will rise up and topple them.
Josh, USAID has been all over the news for a few days. And wow, the Democrat reaction to it has been quite revealing. Here's a bit of it.
We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like.
Elon Musk, you didn't create USAID. The United States Congress did for the American people. And just like Elon Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him.
This is a constitutional crisis that we are in today. Let's call it what it is. The people get to decide how we defend the United States of America. The people get to decide how their taxpayer money is spent. Elon Musk does not get to decide.
We also know this is just the beginning. If Doge attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next. Or maybe our national security agencies.
Sorry, I just had to laugh when I heard him complain that maybe we'll go after the IRS. That's one. Two, Josh, it's interesting. In 2 weeks, Donald Trump's administration has attacked many things from the previous administration, from previous administrations, but nothing has prompted the kind of reaction we got from USAID. Why is that, Josh?
Yeah, you know, Jesse, I think we're both just waiting to hear what Chuck Schumer is aroused about today. You know, that was a pretty funny Freudian slip recently, wasn't it? No, but I mean, listening to Chuck Schumer talk about how, God forbid, we actually go after the IRS, that kind of reminds me of this left-wing media report that I was reading the other day about Donald Trump and Elon Musk going after USAID, where they basically said, oh, they actually might have less money to fund for LGBT rights overseas and for DEI initiatives. And like, I'm reading this article and I'm like, you're talking about this like it's a bad thing. I mean, we're just not on the same page here. After the 2024 election, you had a lot of more sober centrist Democrats, people like John Fetterman in Pennsylvania, people like Jimmy Carville, the old Raging Cajun down in Louisiana, people like that who said, you know what, this party really needs to give up on just calling everything a constitutional crisis, on calling Donald Trump a fascist dictator day in and day out, and just getting back to basic politics, economic policy, bread and butter, blue collar, working class stuff, all the above. And now here we are, less than 3 weeks into Donald Trump's second term. And Jesse, they've learned nothing. They've learned literally nothing whatsoever. If USAID, an organization that last I checked was giving over $500 million to fund ESG initiatives, environmental social governance, basically DEI for investing, they were funding that in Africa. They were funding DEI in Burma to the tune of like $40 million, I think. If you guys are freaking out about this, I mean, I can't wait to see the reaction when Donald Trump and Elon Musk start to burn down the United States Department of Education there. I mean, they are going to be in the streets rioting, and I'm just going to sit back at my desk here and kick my feet in the table and have a nice little whiskey and just enjoy the ride, my friend.
It is enjoyable. Josh, see you, brother. Come back soon. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.